Guys, I've got something cool to tell you about. As an engineering leader, a manager, and an engineer myself, I'm geeking out over a new product I'm just discovering that helps me with each of these points of view. The great team at SEMA, builders of the SEMA Intelligence Platform, have been working on what they call the Product Roadmap Radar. It's this integrated solution that uses generative AI to observe your code and Jira in order to summarize, synthesize, and make it easier to deliver your roadmap. It not only helps keep your roadmap on track, but it helps reduce the time engineers spend in meetings. Cue all the engineers clapping. The Product Roadmap Radar is extremely easy to set up. This only takes about 5 minutes. Just enable your integrations and let AI do all the mapping for you. My favorite part? I'm glad you asked. The radar doesn't just tell you about your roadmap. It suggests changes you need to make based on the code that's been written and the stories that have been addressed. No commenting, no special setup, all generative AI. It gives you an outside view of your roadmap based on the code and projects a target completion date based on outstanding work and activity. Again, no comments, no special setup. It even detects shadow work when development is being done but Jira isn't being updated. I'm pretty jazzed about it, and I think you will be too. Take a second to watch a short but awesome demo video. Go to codestory.co/PRR to watch it today. You'll like what you see. This episode is sponsored by Postman. Postman is the world's leading API platform, trusted by 98% of the Fortune 500 and over 40 million developers. Tap into APIs from 18,000 plus companies to power agents that make smarter decisions. Learn more at postman.com/podcast/codestory. This message is sponsored by Melee Search. Today, search isn't just a feature, it's a cornerstone. And Melee Search gives your users the experience they need with lightning-fast performance, full-text search, AI usage, and multimodal capabilities. Melee Search delivers relevant results in less than the blink of an eye. Use the promo code CODESTORY at checkout to get 2 months free at meleesearch.com. That's MEILI search.com. This episode is brought to you by Paddle. Don't settle for less when you can have more, MOR, with Paddle, your merchant of record. Eliminate the headaches of payments, grow your revenue everywhere, and focus on what you do best, building your product. Get more revenue with less hassle at paddle.com. This episode is brought to you by PropelOff. People take authentication for granted, but it's more than how customers log into your product. It's how you manage your relationship with your users. The easiest way to make authentication your advantage is to use PropelOff. PropelOff is more than just functional. It's powerful. With tools like Managed UIs, Enterprise SSO, robust user management features, and actionable insights, PropelOff adapts as your product grows. And the best part? When Auth is effortless, your team can focus on scaling, not troubleshooting. That means more releases, happier customers, and more growth for your business. Save dev time, win over your customers, and propel your business forward with PropelOff. Check them out at propeloff.com. That's PROPELAUTH.com.
We never called in our product, we never called the object a feature flag. We called them tests, we called them experiments, we called them splits at certain points in time. And that was one of the most challenging things, I think, for us over the course of time, because our competitors really leaned into the terminology of feature flagging. We didn't want to be seen as a feature flagging product. We saw feature flagging as an enabling technology for us. We saw feature flags as an entry point to a much larger product. But we never really leaned into the feature flagging terminology. And I think over the course of time, that hurt us. I'm Trevor Stuart, the co-founder of Split, acquired by Harness, and now the general manager and SVP of the feature management and experimentation product.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do
took
next.
many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their back.
A company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve
I was
more.
proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was
Yes, we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
to ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really want it.
It's not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story.
I'm your host, Noah Lappart, and today how Trevor Stuart is leading the charge in feature management and experimentation within the merged ecosystem of Harness. Trevor Stuart was born in Florida but raised in Seattle. He was the son of a tech CFO and an Episcopalian minister, so he learned life at many different angles. He graduated from Boston College and went into investment banking at Morgan Stanley. Beyond that, he worked at RelateIQ prior to being acquired by Salesforce, which then led him to start his own thing. Outside of tech, he's married and expecting his first child soon. He lives in Sonoma and loves wine, which type depends on his mood and the time of year. At RelateIQ, Trevor and his team had a core problem, pushing more code and looking to move faster but limiting the amount of quality issues. His co-founder built the early workings of a system he had seen at LinkedIn around gatekeeping features. Eventually, post-acquisition of that company, they decided to start building this solution on their own, which led them toward their own acquisition. This is the creation story of Split.
So Split is a feature management and experimentation product, or was, and the artist formerly known as Split is a feature management experimentation product. How did we get started building it? It all dates back to our time at RelateIQ and Salesforce. And I'll walk you through a little bit of that journey. My co-founders and I were working at a company called RelateIQ. IQ was founded on this premise of sales reps are leaving this digital wake behind them, right? So a little bit of a plug for RelateIQ, but essentially the concept was you have emails, text messages, phone calls. We're going to collect that digital wake and we're going to analyze it and build data science products on top of it. That business was acquired by Salesforce. It built some of the early primitives of Salesforce IQ and Einstein. But while we were there, we had built an internal solution to help us release software faster. We had a core problem as we were scaling our engineering team where, while we were pushing more code and we were looking to move faster, we were also introducing quality issues. And that was manifested in bug counts as well as NPS scores. And so my co-founder actually had seen this solution before. He had worked at a company we're all very familiar with, LinkedIn, where they had built an internal solution to essentially gate that code as it was being deployed to production so that you could deploy to production with the feature not enabled for customers, and had seen the problem before. And so he raised his hand at RelateIQ and said, I know how to solve this problem. And I always like to joke that my two co-founders, one was his manager and one was an individual engineer. His manager essentially said, don't waste time building the internal solution. We have a product to build. He actually spent his nights and weekends building this early primitive of what became our internal feature flagging and experimentation product. We called it RICX internally. And over the course of time, that became the standard way with which we release software to our customer base. I'll always remember the first time we saw the value. I think every product goes through this aha moment, or every team has this aha moment that there's something here, right? There's something that you're building. The moment for us actually came on a Friday afternoon when we deployed to production and we ended up crashing our website. And one of the front-end developers stood up and looked at my future co-founder and said, I did what you told me to do. What do I do next? And he ran over and turned off the feature flag. And the website came back to life and everybody was celebrating at 4:30, 5 o'clock that they weren't going to have to be there all night dealing with rollbacks and identifying the bug and the issue. And so I always remember that moment. I think that was the time when everyone in the organization had this moment of, wow, there's something powerful in this technology. Fast forward, we used it for every single feature flag release and every single thing we did at RelateIQ. That company was acquired by Salesforce, and post-acquisition, myself and my two co-founders sat down and kicked around a bunch of ideas, and this was the one we decided to start Split with.
So let's dive into the MVP a little more. Tell me about how long it took to build and what sort of tools you were using to bring it to life.
Because we had built it a few times ourselves, the initial working prototype was super quick. We were able to get to a Java SDK that allowed us to essentially turn a feature flag on and off with some very lightweight percentage-based rollout capabilities. We were able to have a UI that allowed you to essentially turn those flags on and off, gave you some lightweight accountability. We could see who was doing what, so some lightweight logging. And that was really our MVP. And we started taking that around to a number of customers and getting feedback. I think it was one of those products that people had a long list of things they wanted us to build. I'm still building those things 10 years later, which I never thought I'd be building feature flags and experimentation products for 10 years, but the list is high in terms of what customers are hoping to achieve. I think the hardest part about getting to that next level was about getting to that production level quality. When you think of feature flags, and your audience probably knows this, but at its core, we're essentially gating and determining whether we show a user a particular experience or not. And when you make that change within our product, we have to propagate that change within a matter of milliseconds all over the world. We serve feature flags on every single continent. We serve them across a myriad of devices. We're installed on Internet of Things devices like fridges and TVs. A lot of the media and streaming businesses rely on our tech. And so I think the hardest part was not getting to that kind of early MVP, but it was about scaling it to be able to serve the volume of transactions that we serve today.
This episode is brought to you by Paddle. As a startup, you face unique challenges to stay competitive. You and your team need to stay focused on your product, not your payments. You need to do more, MOR, and DIY less. With Paddle. Paddle is your merchant of record, becoming the seller of record for your SaaS transactions, enabling your team to focus on what's important, your product. Paddle handles all payment management across multiple gateways and methods, taking ownership of tax liability while remaining compliant with regulations across all markets. The platform handles all aspects of SaaS billing models, upgrades, add-on, trials, and more. Let's look at the results. MOR revenue optimization is built into Paddle and accounts for up to 16% higher conversion rates, reduced payment failures, localized pricing, and churn prevention, recovering 40% of cancellations. Their developer-friendly tools are API first with comprehensive documentation, removing the burden from your engineers. With Paddle as your merchant of record, you'll generate more revenue, find and keep more customers, grow faster, and stay compliant everywhere. So what are you waiting for? Get more revenue with less hassle at paddle.com. Guys, I've got something cool to tell you about. As an engineering leader, a manager, and an engineer myself, I'm geeking out over a new product I'm just discovering that helps me with each of these points of view. The great team at SEMA, builders of the SEMA intelligence platform, have been working on what they call the product roadmap radar. It's this integrated solution that uses generative AI to observe your code and Jira in order to summarize, synthesize, and make it easier to deliver your roadmap. It not only helps keep your roadmap on track, but it helps reduce the time engineers spend in meetings. Cue all the engineers clapping. The product roadmap radar is extremely easy to set up. This only takes about 5 minutes. Just enable your integrations and let AI do all the mapping for you. My favorite part? I'm glad you asked. The radar doesn't just tell you about your roadmap. It suggests changes you need to make based on the code that's been written and the stories that have been addressed. No commenting, no special setup, all generative AI. It gives you an outside view of your roadmap based on the code and projects a target completion date based on outstanding work and activity. Again, no comments, no special setup. It even detects shadow work when development is being done but Jira isn't being updated. I'm pretty jazzed about it, and I think you will be too. Take a second to watch a short but awesome demo video. Go to codestory.co/PRR to watch it today. You'll like what you see. This one's for all you tech founders out there. You know that feeling. You finally come up with the perfect name for your startup. Then you check the .com and it's taken, parked, unused, or priced like rent in Palo Alto. So you settle with extra letters, weird spellings, whatever it takes. But hey, you don't have to compromise because now there's finally a domain for tech founders like you. I'm talking about .tech domain names. Get the startup name you actually want on .tech. Absolutely no compromises. What's more, you signal to your customers and investors that you're building tech even with your domain name. Isn't that cool? So if you've got a name in mind, search for it now with .tech on a trusted platform like GoDaddy or visit get.tech/codestory to grab it today. That's get.tech/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Mailtrap, an email platform developers love. Try for free at mailtrap.io. That's mailtrap.io. This episode is sponsored by Postman. APIs are the foundation of reliable AI, and reliable APIs start with Postman. Trusted by 98% of the Fortune 500, Postman is the platform that helps over 40 million developers build and scale the APIs behind their most critical business workflows. With Postman, teams get centralized access to the latest LLMs and APIs, MCP support, and no-code workflows, all in one platform. Quickly integrate critical tools and build multi-step agents without writing a single line of code. Start building smarter, more reliable agents today. Visit postman.com/podcast/codestory to learn more. That's postman.com/podcast/codestory.
Okay, so then moving forward, you've got that, first version. How did you progress and mature it? I think what I'm looking for there is, how did you build your roadmap? How did you go about deciding that, okay, this was the next most important thing to build or to address with Split?
We had built this before, so we knew where we wanted to go. And so we had a general sense. I'd say the biggest change we made was our move from core feature flagging into experimentation. And that really came from talking to customers and seeing how they were using the product. We knew we wanted to go that direction, but we let the data and the customers validate us. And to give you a little bit more detail, we got to that decision because we found that every single customer was using one integration within our product. It was our impressions webhook. It's the most powerful integration we have today still. And when you talk to customers, they were sending those feature flag evaluations that who saw what feature at what time. They were sending that data to downstream solutions to be able to understand the impact on their customer base. And over the course of time, that became our big early signal that we needed to move into additional products and into things like experimentation and onto release monitoring, which we can get into. But I would say the most informative thing we did to build our roadmaps over the course of time was continuing to talk to customers. We would look at how they were using the product, but over the course of time, it was really reliant on what customers were looking for, the use cases, and really what would help drive adoption within their organizations and help them scale across their teams.
Okay, how did you go about building your team? What do you look for in those people to indicate that they were the winning horses to join you?
I interview a lot of people even to this date, right? I've probably interviewed hundreds of people over the course of the last decade in hiring. And I think in the beginning, I candidly probably did it wrong. And I think interviewing and recruiting is, I think, a refined skill. For me, in the beginning, I would often spend a lot of time on the technical, the product. If I was hiring a salesperson or a sales leader, I would talk about their sales experience, etc. Over the course of time, I really learned to pivot away from those elements of the conversation and more focus on really what drives them. I think understanding what is driving that individual, what is the hole, someone used that expression with me the other day, what is the hole that they're looking to fill? I really try and tease that out and build those relationships, because when you understand that, you're able to understand why they're going to get on a plane with you for a dinner in London with a particular customer, or pick up the phone at midnight because there's an incident and there's an issue. And so being able to understand that part of the individual will help you identify if you're going to be able to have to use your expression, a winning horse.
This episode is brought to you by PropelOff. People take authentication for granted, but it's more than how customers log into your product. It's how you manage your relationship with your users. The easiest way to make authentication your advantage is to use PropelOff. PropelOff is more than just functional. It's powerful. With tools like Managed UIs, Enterprise SSO, robust user management features, and actionable insights, PropelOff adapts as your product grows. And the best part? When off is effortless, your team can focus on scaling, not troubleshooting. That means more releases, happier customers, and more growth for your business. Save dev time, win over your customers, and propel your business forward with PropelOff. Check them out at propeloff.com. That's PROPELAUTH.com. This episode is sponsored by Search. In today's digital landscape, search isn't just a feature, it's a cornerstone, and you need a user experience that drives customer satisfaction. You need Search. Search has lightning-fast performance, returning answers in less than 50 milliseconds. Yeah, you heard that right. Faster than the blink of an eye. The open-source AI search engine is plug-and-play, so you can get up and running in minutes with smart presets, allowing you to start searching through your data with zero configuration. Search utilizes advanced full-text search and AI, ensuring your results are ultra-relevant with semantic depth. It's multimodal, supporting images, videos, and audio, along with being federated, i.e. searching across multiple data sources. And it's developer-friendly. Whether you're building a content-rich website or enterprise application, MailySearch delivers the experience your users expect and deserve. For a limited time, CodeStory users can get 2 months free. Use the promo code CODESTORY, all one word, at checkout. Just go to MailySearch.com and get started today. That's MEILI search.com.
Okay, I'm curious about scalability, right? And you mentioned, feature flags to replicate really fast, right? And so scalability is important, and I'm curious about how you approach that, and if were any interesting areas where you had to fight it as you grew?
So in this, I actually credit my two co-founders a lot here. One of them was around our decision to use a technology from Fastly that allowed us to essentially purge the CDN and propagate that new change. The reality is the way we architected our systems was the feature flags, and that was scalable from the early days. Our feature flags are, and to get a little bit technical for your audience, they are self-contained decision engines where all of the decisions are made on the client. So there is never a callback to us. So once we solved that technical problem of how do we propagate changes around the world within milliseconds, that really scaled well. And we've been a partner of Fastly for a number of years, and they've continued to scale with us. We obviously did introduce new technology around streaming-based architecture so that we're essentially pushing those changes to the clients anywhere around the world versus them pulling in. Those changes came a little bit later in our lives. I think the bigger scaling challenge was more around the data side of our product. And I alluded to experimentation earlier, but one of the things that made Split unique was we moved from feature flags to feature flags plus data. And what that meant was, as a team that's releasing a new feature, you might turn something on for 1, 2, 3% of customers, and you want to understand if you broke anything. And so to do that, you're oftentimes looking at session replay, you're looking at your performance monitoring tools. But the problem is that 1 to 3% of your audience, it's really difficult to assess that change. It will show up as a blip within your performance monitoring tool. And so we built out these abilities, we call them release monitoring, to help you understand when you turn something on for those few single-digit percentage points. Did you see an increase in load time, a spike in crashes or error rates, etc.? And that is the data problem, right? Feature flags are evaluated all around the world at sheer volumes that are outrageous. To even state the numbers of, we capture trillions of what we call impressions, and we're joining that with performance data that we're capturing from performance monitoring tools, product analytics tools, and we're doing that attribution in near real time and rendering those results to our customers within seconds and minutes. And that's the data problem. I actually credit my co-founders a lot. They operated with this phrase of always building for 10x. And so we've constantly found ourselves always rebuilding for that 10x. And at certain points, that 10x came a lot quicker. At certain points, we built something, and 6 months later, that 10x, we needed to go again. But I credit my co-founders for really leading a lot of those architectural decisions that have allowed us to scale our experimentation and monitoring capabilities.
As you step out on the balcony and you look across all that you built with Split in particular, what are you most proud of?
I think the thing I'm most proud of is the team. When I look back at the product, of course, I'm incredibly proud to tell my mom that when she books that airline ticket or when she logged into her bank account, she's hitting the product that her son built. Of course, we're all incredibly proud of that side. I think the thing I, as a founder, am most proud of is the team and the culture. I've worked with a lot of the people at Split who now work with me at Harness. I've worked with for nearly a decade. I've seen them grow as individuals, as many of them have had kids over the course of their journey of working with me. I know their children. I go down to our office in Argentina and I get to see kids who were born on year 1 who are now 9, 10 years old. And so for me, I think that's probably the thing I'm most proud of, is that we've built a team of people who love what they do, continue to work hard, and really enjoy the journey of building a business and what we do for our customers.
Okay, let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
When we started the company, one of the mantras I set out for myself, I don't talk about this mantra a lot, but I wanted to prevent us from making a decision that would have been hard to unwind. You make a lot of decisions early on in your company's life. A lot of them are deeply technical decisions that set up your object structure, your object hierarchy, how things essentially connect in the product. You make a lot of early decisions that, to your question earlier about roadmap, a lot of them are still gut-based at that stage, right? You're making these decisions at 6 to 12 months in, and you don't have a lot of customers. And so I always wanted to prevent us from making a decision that would become our Achilles heel and something that we wouldn't be able to overcome. I do think we did a good job of that. However, I do think there was one decision that I think plagued us for a very long time and took me probably about 7 years to figure out the right answer to. We never called in our product, we never called the object a feature flag. We called them tests, we called them experiments, we called them splits at certain points in time, but we never called them flags. And that was one of the most challenging things, I think, for us over the course of time, because our competitors really leaned into the terminology of feature flagging. The reason for that, Noah, is we didn't want to be seen as a feature flagging product. We saw feature flagging as an enabling technology for us. We saw feature flags as an entry point to a much larger product, right? That product became, over the course of time, feature management, release monitoring, experimentation. So there's a lot more in there, but we never really leaned into the feature flagging terminology. And I think over the course of time, that hurt us because developers were looking for feature flags. As the market matured, feature flags became the go-to terminology, and it really hurt our discoverability and just introduced friction within the product. We have found ourselves having to educate customers on what a split was, right? Now, I loved the idea, Noah, of calling it a split, right? It was like, did you put that behind a split? Can you split that, etc.? I loved what we were hearing from our customers, but we had to train them. And I think that was probably one of the bigger mistakes, which just introduced friction, and friction is always hard when you're trying to grow.
Let's move forward, Trevor. And as you kind of alluded to throughout this conversation, Split has been acquired by Harness. I'm curious about that process. How did that come about? Tell me some of the stories there that you went through in being acquired. And then, I'll have more questions on what the future looks like for Split within Harness.
Early on in the company's life, there was interest in the business. If I look back in our journey, we didn't tell the team this, but within the first year, there was interest in the product, but it was more interest to be essentially acquired to be homegrown solutions, right? So feature flags and experimentation products were oftentimes built in-house, right? The Airbnbs, the Netflix, the Ubers, many of them have all built their own homegrown solution. Early on in the company's life, we started to get that inbound interest around would we be interested in getting acquired to lead the homegrown solution or build those teams. We always said no to those and continued to scale the business. I'd say about 6-7 years into the business, we started to get a lot of inbound interest. This was when feature management and experimentation really ballooned to the forefront. I think every vendor in the space was trying to figure out what is their stance and position with feature flags and experiments. And the core reason here, Noah, as you think about it, is feature flags have fundamentally changed the way we release software, right? There is no single version of a product. There are 10,000 versions of your application floating around. And so what does that mean for a performance monitoring tool? What does that mean for an analytics tool? When you think about the release pipelines, being able to kind of carry the torch, not just from the deployment all the way through to the release or the feature flag change, to make sure that it was a good experience for customers. So a lot of vendors, I'd say 7-8 years into the journey, we're starting to think about what is their position here. Now, we raised money from a number of vendors who were trying to figure out how do they want to address feature flags and experimentation. So we raised money from Atlassian, ServiceNow, Microsoft. However, the acquisition conversation started to pick up when we started to get that inbound interest from vendors in the performance monitoring space. Candidly, Noah, we started to receive pretty significant interest where vendors were coming to us and asking us if we would be interested in being acquired. They were informally submitting numbers and bids. And we had, at that point, conversations with our board around what would this look like? And should we continue on or should we entertain these conversations? And at that point, we decided to entertain the conversations. We spoke to vendors across a myriad of spaces, whether, what started with performance monitoring vendors expanded into analytics vendors, expanded into release orchestration vendors here like Harness, as well as like DevOps platforms like Harness. And so, that was the journey to get to the acquisition point.
So now that Split's been acquired, what does the future look like for Split, for Harness, for your role? Tell me all about that.
Split is being merged with a product that Harness had. And just to give your audience a little bit of a glimpse into it, Harness had a feature flagging product. It was probably the third product in the market behind us. And when they acquired us, we made the decision to essentially merge those two products together. And what I mean by that is the Harness feature flagging product has some really strong capabilities. It has things around pipelines, the ability to essentially automate your release. It has policy enforcement, the ability to enforce naming conventions. It has really strong RBAC and permissioning scalable for the enterprise. It's got things around tech debt management and the ability to automatically remove feature flags from your code. But it does not have a lot of the capabilities that Split had, things that I've talked about on this podcast with you around feature flags plus data and being able to understand the impact, those release monitoring capabilities, those experimentation capabilities. The split product has a lot of coverage when it comes to the languages we work with. And so really the effort right now is about bringing those two products together into a 1 + 1 = 3 scenario. I fundamentally believe when you kind of look at these two products coming together, you're going to see a fundamentally different product in the market, which brings full release automation capabilities with data-informed rollbacks and roll forwards and provides that kind of best-in-class experimentation experience. That's what we're in the midst of doing. We actually, this week, began rolling it out to customers. And so it's a big week within 12 months of being acquired to be able to start turning it on for customers, that combined product.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. What's one of the biggest lessons you've learned here in these last 12 months and merging the products and now rolling it out? What's one of the biggest lessons?
It always takes longer than you think it's going to take, Noah. Probably the biggest. No, I'd say we entered this phase of the journey. I sat down with Jyoti, the CEO of Harness, and we talked about what success looks like for us 12, 18, 24 months post-acquisition. And we boiled it down to three core things. One is people, and making sure that the team is energized and excited to work in Harness and be a part of this next chapter. That's something I'm obviously excited about, and our team has stayed on as part of this journey and have great relationships with the team. And so that was one that we focused on. The second was our customers. I think any acquisition, it creates uncertainty for your customers, and helping them understand that the product isn't going away. In fact, the product is actually getting better and getting stronger as part of the acquisition. And so I've spent a lot of time with our customers, helping them to kind of see what the kind of 1 + 1 = 3 is going to be. And then the last one is product, right? And I alluded to it earlier, but things do take longer. We spend a lot of time mapping out what this is going to look like. I think as you get later on in the journey, just things come up that you don't expect. And I think that's probably been one of the hardest parts for myself and the entire product and engineering team, is seeing around corners and trying to figure out what is going to come up that you don't foresee today as part of this integration.
Okay, so with your time at Harness, what are you most excited about? What have you found just most exciting while you've been a part of the organization?
One of the things I really appreciate about Harness is the way we build our products, and we call them modules internally. But we have this mentality of a startup within a startup. Obviously, Jyoti Bansal founded Harness. Harness's first product was a CD product, right? Second product was CI. And over the course of time, we now have 14, 15 plus products. And for us, that's the startup within a startup model, right? We're actually launching a new one here in the next couple of months. And really what we do is we fund it with a few engineers. So if you have a great idea that fits within kind of the broader platform and direction and workflows and use cases we're trying to solve for, we'll put 3, 4, 5 engineers on it to essentially build out a working prototype, build out an MVP, bring that to the market. And over the course of time, these businesses get funded within Harness. We like to think of them as how many seed stage companies do we have, all the way through to how many later stage businesses do we have within Harness. We have a number of seed stage products today, some that are in the middle of their journey, and then some that are much later stage and kind of are much more mature product. Obviously, like the feature management experimentation product, after 10 years of investment, falls into that later stage category, all the way through to some of our earlier stage ones that we'll be announcing here in the next couple months. You couple that operating model, which is the startup within a startup model, all the way through to the organizational structure. And that's probably the thing that I get most energized about Harness is, as an entrepreneur, you still get to be an entrepreneur. And I think if I look at the rest of the GMs here at Harness, many of us are former founders. We've started businesses in some capacity. Some of us might have sold them to Harness. Some of us might have sold them to someone else, but now work at Harness. And I think as an entrepreneur, you get the fun of building a product and solving problems and talking to customers. And you get the scalability of a unified go-to-market engine or a sales team, the marketing engine, a centralized finance and legal teams. And so that to me is the compounding effects of Harness that I really enjoy. And it's probably the one thing that keeps me going here.
Trevor, let's switch to you. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to, and why.
I think, and this is probably going to be a little bit of a cop-out answer, but I would actually go back to my dad. I alluded to him being a CFO of a number of different tech companies over his career. But for me, he's still someone I call. He's someone I reach out to if I have a question or I want to get an opinion on a problem I'm working through. So that's definitely one. He's definitely been a guiding light for me, particularly as I enter this next chapter of my life and start to think about raising a family and building my own family over the course of time. And he did a great job of finding that balance and being present and while also building his career, and he's someone I look up to in that regard.
Let's go to the last question, Trevor. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world and can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit?
It all boils down to confidence. And actually, I'll take that in a few different ways. To start a business, you have to have a lot of confidence. I was 28 when I co-founded Split. And to think at 28 years old, I could build a product and sell it to some of the largest enterprises in the world and walk into that conversation, it takes confidence. However, over the course of the journey, your confidence gets rocked, right? You lose a customer, you get beat in a competition relative to a competitor or in a head-to-head prospect relative to a competitor. And so your competition, your confidence takes a little bit of a hit over the course of time. And so I would encourage that young entrepreneur to just keep their head up, stay confident, even in the midst of some of those challenges. And I would also say over the course of time as an entrepreneur, you meet a lot of people who will give advice and share kind of their stories and their direction. And those are your board members, those are advisors. And I would encourage that entrepreneur to have conviction in terms of their decisions and where they want to go. As I found myself zigging and zagging a lot over the course of the company's life. As I met a new advisor or spoke to another entrepreneur, I heard their feedback and would make a decision that zigged the company. And then the next month I would zag. And I think each of those turns slows you down. So I think having conviction as a founder and entrepreneur is really important. And so I would definitely maintain that confidence and definitely maintain that conviction. And then the last one I would say is, as an entrepreneur, you take a big swing. You make a lot of sacrifices. You swing hard for the fence when you start the company. And I would say, don't stop swinging. Over the course of my journey, I felt like it goes back to that confidence, but I felt like I might have held back at the plate a few times. And my wife tells me never to use sports analogies, so I apologize. I think that's one of the things I would also say is keep swinging, to keep taking those risks. It's one of the things I love about Harness is that it's a business that keeps swinging, keeps taking risks, keeps placing bets. We can talk a little bit about Harness and some of the model here, but we really focus on building startups within a startup. And that's our way of swinging. And I really appreciate that methodology and the way Jyoti has built the culture here at Harness. So those would be my three things. Maintain your confidence, follow your gut and have your conviction, and keep taking big swings.
Well, that's fantastic advice. Well, Trevor, thank you for being on the show today. And thank you for telling the creation story of Split and now the time in Harness.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Noah.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.